Hi, everybody. Welcome to the breakdown, your real estate trends and lending insights. We have got a great edition. I'm Susan Bermudez, the real estate gal with EXP.
And Joshua Young here with JCM Lending.
And if you don't see, look at what we got going on, people, man. Super Bowl week. I wonder who we're representing. Holla, go Niners. Gang
I'm
back.
so blessed to have a partner like you. You love the same team I do. How did we land that way? I don't even know, but what a fun thing we share.
Yeah, so I am just total Niners bandwagon here. So no bandwagon jumpers. We are long time fans of the Niners and so proud of them. We're both from Gilbert here, and so Brock being here right in our backyard is super exciting. So of course we've
Come
got to
on, Brock.
represent.
Let's go, baby.
Come on, Purdy. So, especially being in our hometown here. So that is extra special to us. So, but we have got something that we really wanted to bring up to you guys today, and that is with the market and everything that's going on, rates are starting to come down. And guess what? Buyers are out there trying to get their pre-quals and getting into homes once again. So things are starting to pick back up for me. So, which is fantastic, right, Josh? We like to see this. So, but what we want to talk about is providing the information to the lenders. Now, this is a huge process in doing it. And yes, you got to turn in everything that you need to qualify for a loan. But what we want to actually go through is that, guys, you have to make sure that the information you're providing to the lender is correct and the best to your ability. So you can't sneak by, right, Josh? There's no lying on these things, right? It's
Be
not a
sure
good
we'll
thing,
find
guys.
you out
So
if you try.
yeah, and it's not a good thing. So I know it's can be overwhelming because they're asking for so much stuff and you probably have to go digging for all this stuff, right? So, but it's not a lender's fault. I will tell you. So many times people actually say, oh my God, the lender wants this, this, this. By golly, the lender is actually governed by the government, man. These are government rules, right, Josh? It's not your list of stuff you certainly want and the headaches.
No,
No.
but I will say I don't even like to shame on big government. Like the reality is mortgage rules are what they are from time tested, very proven reasons. We start giving loans to people that fall outside of these government set reasons and they can't afford the property, they can't maintain the property, they foreclose on the property and it's a mess. These rules have been around for decades and they're what work. People can keep their house. The government doesn't have to, shore up all these loans that go foreclosed or things like that. It's a system that works. So it is government for sure, but I even as a lender, I see why and I believe in it for sure.
Absolutely. So the process is it's coming up, guys, that we want to be crystal clear because that's the main deal is getting these pre-quals if you're not a cash buyer and getting them done correctly and in a timely fashion so we can set the time frames in. So because on my end, what happens when we get these pre-quals, we immediately start to search at homes and right away you're going to incur costs as a buyer and those are going to be inspections. So typically I know here in the state of Arizona, we have a 10-day inspection period. Now, these inspections can run anywhere from $400 upwards of $1,100, depending on the type of inspections that you do. So why is this important? Because this is money out of your pocket. If you don't qualify for the loan, we can't get the inspection money back. And on top of that, if we keep propelling forward, then comes the appraisal cost. And usually that could be anywhere from $500 to $800 on top of that as well. So, Josh, I mean, these are fees that sometimes we can't get back, and that's an automatic loss for the buyers. So, I want you to walk through how important is it when we fill out these pre-quals and making sure the information is as accurate as possible.
Yeah, yeah. So, some simple steps here that are worth covering. Okay. When we start a pre-qualification for a borrower, they want to buy a home, they want to get qualified so that they know they can afford the houses that you're showing them, Susie. The first step is an application process where I ask the series of questions. This is all verbal, one to you, right? I take your word for it. Will you tell me what the situation is? And we document all that stuff on an application. Then what we do from there is we verify the stuff that we got verbally with actual physical documentation, like pay stubs, like W-2s, like tax returns, like bank statements, like credit reports, these kinds of things, okay? And ultimately, we want to try and have a verbal application with documented application that kind of coincide in one theme, one message, that you're financially sound, that you pay your bills, that you have the assets or down payment needed, that you have the credit history to be reliably counted upon to do a mortgage payment. All these things come into account. But then keep in mind, I'm the loan officer. I'm the front end. I'm in your court. My job is to represent you well, accurately, but well, right? But as soon as you find a home with Susie and you pay that inspection and you pay that appraisal, your loan application, documents, all that, the story we built for you gets moved to a team behind the scenes. And their job's not like mine. Mine is to represent you. Theirs is kind of like to find the flaws, to decline you if they can, right? They're there to protect the lender, the investment the lender is going to make. We've talked a lot about this. Buying real estate is such a powerful investment because you put a small amount in, like 3% or 5% or 10%, but the lender covers 95% or 97%. So they've got all the risk in the game, really. And so they're going to take their time going through a bunch of different things. And so you've all heard of the term underwriting. You've heard of processing your loan. You've heard these terms, maybe verification of employment or verification of mortgage. These different terms. Trust me, there are things behind the scenes that you don't have no idea, right? They can run different reports. They're not credit reports, but they're checking to see if there's debts in your name that you co-signed, or that maybe you have different liens on your land from tax liens, like property tax lien. I mean, they find everything. I think the point is they find everything, and particularly around income and assets, right? Where we get income from and where we get down payment money from. These are the two areas where we see the most. We call it fraud, right? In the business, it's fraud. Misgiven information on the application can be as simple as just being fraudulent, right? And so normally we see people inflating their income or telling us about assets that they have, bank accounts, savings accounts, investments, maybe where they got it from, like, they call it their own, but they got it from a grandma or something and didn't tell us. So these are the kind of things that we need to be accurate. And I think going back to what you said, Susie, when you find a home and you start to outlay these costs, your true story is usually good enough. Like, you don't have to inflate these things. My job is to really find the products that match your true story, your real situation. And trust me, there's a lot of great ways forward. So we were talking about this because you just recently had an experience with a client where this went horribly wrong. And Lord knows I've had several of these. Could you share, Susie, like your real story? Like what happened?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it wasn't with you. It was with another lender of theirs, and so it was really sad because we found a house. They loved it. We searched a bunch of houses. We must have looked at 20 different houses. So we found their perfect house. We put in the offer. It was accepted. We went through all of the inspection periods. We're now into the appraisal. We got the appraisal ordered, and here comes a hiccup on the backside. And this was they put down everything that they owed, but here's the deal. The dad co-signed on both his daughter and his son's college applications. Okay. So he didn't think that that was his debt. So he didn't have it in there, but lo and behold, this is what they dug up. And then he's like, well, what do you mean? No, they're making the payment. So that there's ways around certain things if they could show, but really the daughter wasn't making the payments. He was making the payments. She was going to start to do, so there was so many, he wasn't on purpose, but accidental. And guess what? I couldn't get the inspections back for them. So not only did they lose the house, but they also lost the inspection money. They also lost the appraisal money, and it broke my heart, because
Yeah.
there's no way of getting that back. And it was just, they didn't know that that was the information. And another thing happened last year. It was, unfortunately, it was not you, Josh, because I know we've never really had a bad one because we do a lot of due diligence up front, right? So, which is really great. And this is why I love working with you. But another lender,
Yeah.
it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. They kind of told them information. Well, guess what? That information wasn't accurate by the time. Now, you guys dig layers. I mean, that's what their job, the processors and the underwriters and all those guys, that's what their job is. And they were digging
Right.
deep in layers. And there was stuff that was brought up that the buyer didn't even know that was going on. They were like, what do you mean? What is that? And that turned the whole trajectory. Again, in the middle of it, lost the inspections, lost the appraisal. There's nothing that they could do because we're already past, and they didn't even know that information existed. So now it's
Right.
fixing their credit. And it's an ugly mess. Now, I have had people also, what do we preach, Josh? At the end of transactions, like during a transactions, don't do anything that affects your credit. Don't do any large deposits. Don't
Mm-hmm.
buy anything. Don't open additional accounts. And I
Please.
literally had somebody that was back in Oregon, on the final day, they went out and they bought a boat because they were so excited. They bought a boat. And now here's what the dealership said. Don't worry, you're closing on Wednesday. We're not going to run the credit or run anything until Friday. Well, guess what? Lenders pull and can pull the day of closing, right? Or the day before, just to make sure there's everything's still accurate. They do that. And
Right.
this is what happens. They pulled it, and here comes a $65,000 loan on their
Oh
credit
my
that was
gosh.
new. 65,000 that they were freaked out. They called the dealership. It was just ugly, and they
Right.
weren't supposed to process. They did. And guess who didn't get a house?
Oh
They
my
lost
gosh.
the house because
Oh
they
my
now
gosh.
didn't qualify. It was ugly. So I was like, don't do that.
Right.
So I've got stories upon stories as well as you do, but these
Yeah.
you guys, when you're doing these credit reports and filling these out, I know they can be nightmares. I know I get phone calls all the time like, oh my God, they keep asking for this and this and this and this. But it is for a purpose, like Josh was saying. And it's so crucial, guys, that you actually put in the correct information and know what your credit report is. I mean, you really should be looking at your credit report on a monthly basis just to make sure there's so much fraudulent activities that people don't even know is on their credit until they do something as big as buying a house, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
listening to you, a lot of, there are certain cases of people fudging their numbers, if you will, right? But a lot of what you're
Mhm.
describing, Susie, is just not being as fully aware of your financial situation as a mortgage would require you to be. And the reality is like in every day, we don't need to know all the details of our credit report, exactly, how we get paid, how much commissions or how many bonuses we had last year. Like these things don't matter day to day, but for a mortgage, they do. And the reason why it's important then to have all that right is because, you know, kind of you were describing, Susie, like some lenders are very great at putting together your story. Some lenders are not as great. And the reality is you really rely on a battery of teammates like Susan and I that are experienced, that have time in this business, that ask the right questions, that we probe, right? So that I can find out like, tell me about this, tell me about that. No, let's dive in a little deeper. And the reality is that when you work with professionals, what you get at the other end of it is a pre-qualification that's is professional, which is a purchase contract on the realty side, which is professional, and a closing process that gets you to being a homeowner that's professional. And so reality is that I don't think anyone sets out to lie or cheat the system, but by all means, professionals can help make the process simpler and more straightforward. So because we've seen this topic pop up recently a little bit, we wanted to share with you some of our own stories and some of how the system works and the reason why. But ultimately, we would love to earn your business as professionals because of the fact that we can make this kind of stuff much simpler for you. So we hope the message resonates well.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Because we'd like to get you into a home this year. There's lots of homes that are starting to come back onto the market. We're changing things up. I'm super excited for 2024. So, but knowledge is power. Knowledge is
Yep.
power, in addition
Yeah.
to having the right people in your corner. So, we would love to help you. All of our contact information, guys, is down below. So, first step is getting a hold of Joshua Young at JCM Lending and getting that prequel done, and then hooking up with me, and let's go get you a new home.
Let's
But for
go.
that, yeah, for that, guys, I hope you have a beautiful Super Bowl week and weekend. And those that are football fans, come on now, wait, come
Hey,
on,
all the
Josh, like
neutrals,
let's
all the
go.
neutrals, come on, you're rooting for the 49ers, right? Who likes
Yeah,
Kansas
yeah,
City anyway?
come
Come on.
on. Anyway, all right,
Man,
guys, have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week.
thanks
Bye.
all. Bye.